new name, Saul Becomes Paul. Written by Prisca J. Okatta. Narrated by Archie. Introduction. Imagine a man so driven by conviction that he becomes a force of terror for an entire community. Saul of Tarsus was such a man. His name alone could strike fear into the hearts of the early Christians, and his mission was clear: to destroy the followers of Jesus. Yet what makes his story so extraordinary is not the depth of his zeal, but the extent of his transformation. Saul the persecutor would become Paul the preacher, one of the most influential figures in the history of Christianity. How does such a dramatic change occur? What could possibly shift the course of a man's life so completely that he goes from breathing threats to speaking life? Saul's story begins in the bustling city of Tarsus, a cultural hub of the ancient world. A Roman citizen by birth and a devout Jew by upbringing, Saul was a man of dual identity. He was trained in the law under Gamaliel, one of the most esteemed teachers of his time, and his passion for the traditions of his ancestors burned bright. Saul wasn't just a believer in the law, he was its enforcer, a man who saw the rise of Jesus' followers as a direct threat to the purity of his faith. For Saul, these people who called themselves the Way were blasphemers, heretics and rebels who needed to be silenced at all costs. Saul's zeal was unmatched. When Stephen, one of the early Christians, stood boldly before the Sanhedrin and proclaimed the gospel, Saul was there. Stephen's words, full of truth and conviction, enraged the religious leaders, and they dragged him outside the city to stone him. As the rocks flew and Stephen cried out, "Lord, do not hold this sin against them," Saul stood by, approving of the execution. This moment marked the beginning of a relentless campaign against the church. Saul became the scourge of the followers of Jesus, going from house to house, dragging men and women out to be imprisoned. The mere mention of his name was enough to send shivers down the spines of believers. But Saul wasn't satisfied with rooting out Christians in Jerusalem alone. He wanted to chase them down wherever they fled. His next target was Damascus, a city where many believers had sought refuge. Armed with letters from the high priest granting him authority to arrest anyone belonging to the Way, Saul set out on a journey that would forever change his life. He was determined, confident, and utterly blind to the fact that he was about to collide with the very God he thought he was defending. On the road to Damascus, something extraordinary happened. As Saul neared the city, a light brighter than the midday sun suddenly surrounded him. It was
Sample complete. Ready to continue?